Okay, so again, I'm going to give my overall thoughts here, then there's going to be a pretty big spoiler section in between these bits. So, okay, there'll be little breakpoints. I'll put a little timestamp in if you want to skip the spoilers. Alright, okay. So yes, now that I've completed Hawkeye, or Season 1 of Hawkeye, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to give it an A. I mean, it's really good. It's enjoyable. Good character interaction, nice action set pieces, good world building and storytelling involved. If I do have I have another complaint, but I can't say it without spoiling, so that'll have to be saved for the spoiler section. Yeah, but other than that, I think it maybe suffers a little bit from character overload. I think there's a little too much going on, especially in the last episode. Way too many characters to keep track of, and leading to a very drawn-out action sequence that I kind of wish maybe it hurried up a little bit. But other than that, yeah, it's still, I'm going to give it an A. So yes, very good, highly recommended, you should watch it.
New Marvel Mighty Beans! Flip and flop with your favorite Marvel characters like Spider-Man, Hulk, and the special edition Gold Collector Beans. Mighty Beans just can't stop moving, and there are over 75 Marvel Mighty Beans to store and collect. You can only get these 5 special edition Gold Collector Beans with this special TV offer. And we'll include the Spider-Man Collector Case with 3 more Mighty Beans and Flip Track, all for $24.95 plus $9.99 shipping and handling. You must be 18 years or older to order.
Okay, this is the spoiler section, so skip to this bit if you want to avoid everything. Okay, so obviously I watched episodes 3 and 4 of Hawkeye basically on the same day, a couple hours spread apart, but yeah, I've been really busy, so I missed episode 3 when it first popped up, and technically I missed episode 4 when it first popped up too, because I'm recording this on Friday, but anyway, episode 3 is, let me get my notes here, it's called Echoes. We basically get a big backstory recap from Maya Lopez. Basically, or Echo, if you want to call her that. She's, they show her she's obviously hearing impaired, as I've said before. She, goes to a school for hearing because her father doesn't want her to go to a school for the deaf because he wants her to kind of, for lack of a better term, overcome everything. And you see the relationship with that and how she picks up learning to lip read, and she can actually answer questions even though she didn't hear anything or use her interpreter. And you see her in martial arts. She also has an artificial right leg too. I don't know why. That wasn't something from the comics. But well, basically you then kind of jump to her at one point too, after a martial arts training session. Her father comes over to see how proud he is, and then her uncle comes over, and it is clearly Wilson Fisk. Like, I mean, seriously, I'm pretty sure they actually used Vincent D'Onofrio's hands. I mean, it's hard to say. It's surprising to say they could have recognized a guy via his hands, but yeah, I mean, the guy moves the same way D'Onofrio did as the Kingpin in the Daredevil show. But yeah, from there, then basically what happened with her, we jumped to her as kind of a semi-adult, and she sees Ronin killing off the tracksuit mafia guys, including her father. And so then we jump back to the present, where Hawkeye and Kate are Clinton Kate are tied up. Excuse me. And from there, Maya starts interrogating, and she notes Clint's hearing aid, and he has to explain, like, well, I'm hearing impaired, but I'm not really deaf, and I don't really know all that much sign language. So, and she's like, well, okay, you should just take that out because I could see it's affecting you. Like, is that they actually show that the hearing aid is sort of affecting Clint's ability to shoot his arrows properly and everything, like, because it will occasionally just go off and get like feedback going through it. But eventually, Clint works his bonds free, and he starts fighting out. He manages to get to his arrow. However, in the process, his hearing aid gets smashed. He has to pick it up, and you actually do see that he's shooting his arrow much better. He uses an arrow to free Kate from her bonds, and they steal off in a car, leading to a big car chase. The funny thing is, again, like, Kate doesn't have a driver's license, doesn't really know how to drive a car because she lives in New York City, and Clint is, Clint is, he can't hear, so, he's trouble navigating everything, and they can't really communicate too well, so she's firing off he has to warn her not to use certain arrows because they might actually kill these people, and they don't want that. That's going to attract too much attention. So she's having to fire all these various trick arrows to try to get everything free, as they eventually do. And then, kind of from that, we get more of the problems as Clint's hearing aid isn't working anymore. So his youngest son Nathaniel calls, and he thinks it's, he can't hear the phone, so Kate has to listen to the call, write the message down, and relay it to him. And then eventually Clint does get it repaired. We get a bit of bonding between Kate and Clint here, where they're sort of talking, and he's trying to dissuade her from the life of a hero. Like, he's talking about, again, his hearing's impaired, he's injured a lot, he's had no time with his family, and then added to that, he tiptoes around the idea of, like, I was Ronin, and trying not to explain it so loudly so she doesn't, piece it all together entirely. But one of the things they turn up, though, is, hey, we need to, do information look on this one guy because I got his ID. His name's Kazi. And Kate is kind of dead certain that she can piece together that her future stepfather, Jackson Duquesne, is in league with these guys, with the Tracksuit Mafia. But they're not so sure until they go back to the Bishop Mansion. And as as Kate is looking this up, and she does find, oh, hey, look, this Kazi guy is on, the payroll of this corporation, and I don't know anything else about it. It's then that Jackson walks in and holds a sword up to Clint's throat. That's how the episode ends, which transfers over to the next episode, which is called Partners. Am I right? It's Eleanor, Kate's mother, interrupts everything. However, it's that during some downtime that Hawkeye is allowed, Clint, whatever, Hawkeye Clint, is allowed to, gets off a quick text to his wife, Laura. Yes, I finally learned what Linda Cardellini's character is named. And he basically has her look up the information on this corporation, this Russian Front Corporation, and it turns out that, yes, this actually does have ties to Jack Duquesne. So Kate might be onto something. That being said, especially after Kate's mother tells him to ward off, if anything bad happens to you, I will come after you. Happens to her, you get the idea. He's again trying to kind of dissuade her, even though they talk a little bit, and she promises to try to get him home by Christmas, because again, this is his first Christmas back with his family. He wants to be there, but he's missing days, and everyone kind of has pieced this together. Like, even at one point, while in the room with the kids, Laura starts talking to Clint in Russian over the phone to try to dissuade them, but it's like, yeah, they've all sort of pieced it together that something's wrong. So Kate does her best to kind of give Clint a bit of a holiday Christmas type feel. And again, the two slowly bond. Like, Clint shows a lot of his reflexes, tries to teach her some of his tricks. And this is sort of the bonding episode. And, the next day, it's like, okay, well, I'm almost out of trick arrows, so we need to... And the others, because they were in my bag that got possessed by the NYPD when Kate's apartment burned down. Excuse me. When Kate's apartment burned down. You need to go back to... I need to send you to the LARPers to try to see if we can figure out how to get them back. And kind of another little running thread between these two episodes is Kate is constantly suggesting that Hawkeye needs to wear a costume. It's like, yeah, I don't really do costumes. It's like, well, it doesn't do a good job of concealing your identity because pretty much everyone knows who you are. You can walk into it's like everyone knows who you are. You walk into a restaurant, everyone knows who you are. So, yeah, it doesn't really help at all. And, yeah, from there, they start piecing things together. And then another thing is this watch, this Rolex watch, which played a bit of a role in the first episode because it was one of the auction items up, fell into the hands briefly of the Russian, of the Tracksuit Mafia. And then another one found something else, and then, yes, this is the watch, the 268 code on it, and it's pinging something because it can be tracked. It's this old Rolex watch, and it's like it belonged to Natasha, basically. And as this has happened too, as Kate and Clint are bonding, he basically, fesses up to everything. He fesses up to being Ronin. he fesses up to, Natasha dying, how he recruited her, losing his family in the blip and the pain that suffered, and, how he's kind of trying to live down his actions during that time. Like, so you're getting that, and as this is happening, they find out that the watch is in Maya Lopez's apartment, and, well, they don't realize it's Maya's apartment just yet, but, they go to the apartment and they see, Kate kind of charms her way in, trying to help an old guy with his groceries. She goes in, she gets into the apartment, she takes out a couple of bizarre strobe lights. It turns out those are silent alarms for hearing impaired people. And as this is happening, Kate gets jumped by Maya, but then Clint gets jumped by someone else that he thinks is Maya. And this big whole fight ensues, and she neutralizes them, and it's Yelena Belova. Yeah, that got spoiled for me, like when it came out, pretty much right when the episode came up, like, oh, hey, Yelena's here too, and that's it. And because Hawkeye only knows Yelena as a Black Widow assassin, he thinks, oh, I've been marked, my family's been marked, Kate, you need to get away, we need to be separated, like, this isn't funny anymore. And Kate's just kind of no, we're in too far, we have to work together. And that's kind of how the episode ends. And I would say this is good character building episodes, a little bit of history, Onyx, in this. The one thing I would say, not a lot of comic booky stuff, not a lot of comic book references to have fun with. But, other than that, still very solid, still very fun. The chemistry of the cast is good, particularly Renner and Steinfeld. And, of course, I would say also Haley Steinfeld and Vera Farmiga as Eleanor work really well together as well. So, so we'll see you all for episode 5 and possibly episode 6 if I have to do this again this way. Okay, so episode 5 is called Ronin, and it picks up basically sort of where episode 4 left off. Basically because when Yelena pops up in episode 4, we then get a brief explanation as to what happened to her, and yeah, I think it is possibly the best representation of the blip we've had in the MCU so far. Basically, she and another Black Widow agent are there trying to track down a former Black Widow agent named Anna, and they try to dose her with the antidote, but Anna basically reveals she broke her programming a long time ago, and, she settled down and gotten married. So, yeah, and they're like, oh, okay, and they're trying to smooth things over and clean up the mess they made, and Yelena excuses herself to go to the bathroom. She's washing her hands, and then suddenly, we see her fade out, and then fade back in within like 5 seconds, and then you see like the room change around it, like the room was in a white, she had white walls, it changes to green, and so it's like this lived-in house, and Anna now, like I said, has her husband, and she, has adopted a daughter, and it's like, what happened? Yeah. And then we jump to the present, where Kate is, she's gone to her home, the proper Bishop mansion at this point. She explains to her mother Eleanor everything that happened, and so, including everything about Jack, and Eleanor says, okay, well, this is getting too dangerous. It was probably right for Clint to send you away. I'll look into Jack, but you need to go back to your place and pick up some stuff and come back here so that, you're at least, under some better protection than you are in your apartment. So Kate goes back to her apartment where Yelena is waiting for her, and Yelena basically says, look, I know you are. I've, did my research on you and everything. I'm just telling you, I'm not against you. I'm just after Clint. Someone hired me to take out Clint Barton, but I have my own personal reasons. And she explains that Natasha is her sister and everything. So, she goes back. And once Kate heads back to her place, we find Jack being arrested. In case you're wondering what happened with Clint, I'll get to Clint in a second. But yeah, she finds Jack being arrested. And he's still declaring his innocence and everything. At this point, Clint has spent the night with the LARPers again. They finished his and Kate's outfits, but he doesn't care. He just kind of wants to get some shut-eye at this point. He brought Pizza Dog with him for some reason. And, after this, he turns off his his hearing aid. Sorry, he turns off his hearing aid and basically kind of makes a silent prayer to Natasha, apologizing for what he has to do. At this point, Kate has begun calling him repeatedly to try to explain everything that's happened with Yelena and everything. And, she pings the phone and realizes that he's set up an appointment with Maya to explain the whole Ronin thing, which he does, and he explains at the end that her father's employer sent him after her. Yeah, exactly. He got an inside informant from someone, and I guess I should point out that there's been this sign language interpreter for Maya Lopez this whole time as well, and it's sort of implied that it's Richard Fisk, who is the son of Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, and they're kind of a couple. It's also heavily implied they're in a relationship, and she. He's kind of trying to steer her away from, like, look, just work in the family business, stop this personal vendetta and everything. And, once Clint, makes the revelation that this informant is who tipped him off about everything and that the Kingpin wanted Maya's father taken out, she sort of pieces together that it's Richard. And that's one problem. That's one of the problems I have with this is the character overload, where we have that character, but we never name him. So I'm not entirely sure it's supposed to be Richard Fisk, who is, again, a character in the comics who becomes a wannabe crime boss called the Rose temporarily, but yeah, we don't ever really see that. But Kate arrives and kind of comes to Clint's aid when it looks like when Maya temporarily wounds him. And, Kate pulls in, gets an Uber for Clint to get away with. And she explains what happened with Yelena. And as this is happening, Yelena sends a text message to Kate because it turns out that the person who hired Yelena was Eleanor Bishop. And she has footage of Eleanor talking with Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. Which leads into the 6th episode, which is called So This Is Christmas. And we basically find out that Eleanor is the one who killed Armand Duquesne and set Jack up for it. Basically, because Kate's father, when he died, owed outstanding debts to the Kingpin, Eleanor has been working it off very, very slowly, working in league with the Kingpin, and of course killing Armand Duquesne as part of that. And now she wants out. But, Kate says that's not going to be so easy because Kate is like, you understand, your daughter witnessed a crime, it's the rules, she's got to go. And, basically, as this is happening too, Maya has come to him, and Maya Lopez has come to him and said, look, I apologize. It sort of infers that she also knows what happened, and so she needs to be taken on. So, basically Fisk has to send this tracksuit mafia after everyone because they're going to this big fundraising party it's like the Bishop Security fundraising party. So, Clint and Kate enlist the LARPers and a few others to help, and Yelena's there too, but not to help. So to have this big meeting at there. So yeah, basically this whole thing ends with a big fight at this Christmas party. And, the tracksuit mafia is all there. They're running all over the place. Yelena's going after Clint. Kate is trying to prevent Yelena from getting to Clint, but also trying to protect her mother, who eventually slips out and disappears for like almost 30 minutes in this episode. Meanwhile, Jack has been bailed out, and he's also there. He winds up joining up with the LARPers and coming to their aid and to Kate's aid. He's not fully into the swordsman mode just yet, but yeah, it's basically implied, especially at the end of it, that he's going to join up with the LARPers. Basically, Eleanor, Yelena and Clint square off on the ice rink at Rockefeller Center. Maya kills her, interpreter, so that's Richard Fisk. I'm just going to call him Richard Fisk. And Clint tries to repeatedly explain that, no, you don't understand. I didn't kill Natasha. Natasha sacrificed herself. I wanted to save her. I was trying to save her. But Yelena doesn't believe it until Clint uses the little whistle that Natasha would use, and that sort of sets Yelena on the right path, and she elects to leave after that. As this is happening, Fisk manages to grab Eleanor Bishop, but then Kate gets to him, shoots an arrow, but it doesn't really seem to hurt him that much. So she shoots a couple of trick arrows because they've been making up a whole lot of trick arrows. And that it does distract Fisk long enough for Eleanor to plow into him with a car, and then Kate manages to take him off by setting off several trick arrows at once and temporarily knocking him unconscious until a few hours later when he manages to revive, slip away, where Maya confronts him and shoots him. And in the aftermath of all this, Eleanor Bishop is turned over to the police, even though she tries to defend her actions by saying, again, she did this to protect Kate, that this was all for, Kate, to show her that this is how the real world works, no matter how, a hero isn't always going to swoop in and save you. And, again, so now Kate's kind of left alone. On the bright side, at the end, Clint does make it back just in time for Christmas Day. He brings Kate and Pizza Dog along with him. They're sort of going to give them kind of a traditional family Christmas, and we see Clint and Laura where he gives her the watch that has Agent 19, which is the code name for the code number for the character known as Bobby Morris in the comics, who is also known as Mockingbird, who in the comics was Hawkeye's wife very briefly, and then she died, came back, and they got divorced. So, yeah, which of course, if you know the television show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you know that Bobby Morris also showed up there. So, yeah, again, that's that weird ether realm where Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is and isn't in the Marvel Cinematic Universe anymore. I know that's a whole shebang we just do not have time to get into. Okay, so we don't have to quite get into that. And then we get our mid-credit scene, which is just a musical number from Rogers, the Broadway musical, which, yeah, that was disappointing. I'm sorry, I bet they thought it was cute and all, and like, yeah, I get it, the song's terrible, ha ha ha, but, I'd rather you use this to maybe further plant seeds for a season 2 or further something else, rather than, a stupid musical number. Okay, yeah, that was the one stickler I had in my little summation point. So, yeah, like I said, overall, though, this was still very enjoyable, very fun to watch. Admittedly, it did feel like a chore because I had to watch a bunch of episodes kind of all at once, but still, it worked fine. It's fun. Go watch it.
Hey, Spidey, isn't Marvel's new Pizzazz magazine fantastic?
Fantastic, but not perfect.
But Pizzazz has the lowdown on Jaws, too, and more Sean Cassidy picks than his mother. It's sensational.
Sensational, but not perfect.
How about Pizzazz's Goofy Guide to TV? It's wild look at sci-fi movies. It's games, puzzles, comics. What could be more perfect?
Me on the cover, not the Hulk.
Pizzazz, the almost perfect new monthly from the off-the-wall gang at Marvel Comics.
Okay, so the next video I believe is going to be the first episode of the Book of Boba Fett. I don't think they're doing the first 2 episodes on the same day, at least not with this one. It's an 8-episode series, and they're following for 7 episodes. It says 7 episodes, but it doesn't say 7 weeks. At least everything I've been trying to turn up, it just said, 7 episodes after the premiere. So I'm guessing it's 1 episode a week, and they're not doing 2 episodes the first time through. I'm not sure. Anyway, yeah, we'll probably do, we're going to do Book of Boba Fett, then the random trade review on Rick and Morty, then WWE Day 1, and that's, I don't know if, what the next, movie review is. I'm just not really up for seeing Morbius right now. Like, I've had to do, it's been really busy, and I kind of want to have a little time to unwind a bit, so I'll try to get, I know there'll at least be 1 other theatrical review in January, I know that, but see you all next time. Hey guys, remember, you can help support my channel at patreon.com/SleepyTimeForCat Productions, where you can help request a movie, even if it's something like, say, Sonic the Hedgehog or the next Purge film. I'll review it.